Hello, I'm Christy Mingus, and I'm going to introduce these wonderful students about the Holy Trinity Church, and I'm going to hand it off to Gabe.
Gabe Zahn. I am a first-year MArch student.
My name is Dylan Nelson. I'm in the fourth year of my BArch.
My name's Amy Hamp. I'm fourth year of my BArch.
I'm Alexandra DeGroot. I'm in my sixth year of the BArch.
Okay.
All right, we're going to tell you about our process of documenting Holy Trinity Episcopal Church. So, a little bit of history first. Holy Trinity was constructed in 1856, and it was designed by Henry Casey Kramer. And it was also constructed in the early Gothic Revival style, sorta. The reason I say that is it was constructed in several different parts. Holy Trinity was originally supposed to be a temporary church for the congregation until they could build a nicer, larger stone church. But due to some issues with money and inconsistent pastor, they eventually just made it their permanent church. And when they did that, they used the money that they did have to add on the tower and the front entry area. And then later on, they ended up also adding the living quarters in the back. So because of those two things, there's a lot of inconsistencies. There's a lot of weird areas that the roofs kind of mash up and just some weird geometry. And that was one of the things that while working through the point cloud, we were able to see a lot of those weird areas. And unfortunately, we could only get an interior scan of the main church area, not the living quarters. So we weren't able to document the interior of that and see exactly how that all came together. But our process had four main parts. So we used point cloud and photos as our raw details and worked off of those to create a Revit model as precise as we could. And then after we got everything we could out of the point cloud and the photos, we went in and modeled every little fine detail we could. And then from that Revit model, we created all of our drawings and renders and the other digital stuff that you'll see here today. So this was all of our first time working with a point cloud, and it posed a few challenges. So with the way a point cloud works, there's a lot of areas that you don't end up getting any data because it was blocked by trees or blocked by something else in the way. So we were able to get a rough idea of what was there, but there was some little gray areas and some spots we had to use the photos to zoom in and figure out what's actually going on there. And I'll have Amy talk a little bit about taking that point cloud and making the Revit model out of that.
So for transforming this point cloud into a Revit file, it was a lot of our first time working in Revit, so it was kind of a different challenge that we've never been introduced to before, but we took it head on and were able to use some of the geometries from the point cloud and figure out where walls were and what different details and stuff looked like. So like a lot of the main board and battens, we could line those up perfectly, and we individually modeled those in Revit. All the details of the buttresses, and there's porch details, and a lot of our stained glass, we could get really fine pulling from that point cloud and seeing exactly the measurements rather than just estimating like we would if we were just pulling from those photos and stuff. So our Revit file, obviously a lot of the geometries were weird, like Dylan was saying, because of those additions. So a lot of the roofs and stuff, we were able to match up to those precisely. And we were able to build a lot of custom details and stuff as well, which was honestly a very interesting process, I think, because I've never built something straight from scratch, something as small as a pre-existing ornate detail on a porch or something, or making your own stained glass. It was more about replicating and learning that process than designing from scratch. So I thought that was helpful. And
the point cloud gave us a lot of good insight. So for example, from this photo of the Revit model, you can see that the exterior roof is just a regular gable roof. We were able to find out through the point cloud that the interior ceiling is actually a gambrel ceiling. So they have two different profiles, and we wouldn't have known that just from this exterior like this, just seeing it from the outside. So it gives us a lot of good insights into little weird quirks that this church has.
Yeah, and then pulling off of our Revit file, we were able to make HABS drawings, which are going to go and be submitted into the Library of Congress and archived there, which is really interesting. But yeah, so we were able to pull that point cloud and duplicate it then into Revit. And you can see that side-by-side comparison of those overlays being exact and precise and just lining up all those weird angles that you wouldn't have been able to get otherwise, just straight up. But yeah.
So our renderings, like the other student groups, were done in twin motion. We just went about a different path of getting there. We started in Lumion, but we realized early on that, or not early on, I should say, pretty late, but we realized that there was no VR capabilities, and we thought that this was a very important part to us, which you can see Chrissy in right now. So we found that out pretty recently, and we've been, trying to truck in to get to where we are right now. You can switch it. The building itself is pretty simple, with shades of brown, and there's these green accent tints which kind of bring out this very intricate detailing. And of course the stained glass, which we think are kind of the signature pieces of this building, really stick out on this more minimalistic, simple exterior. Here's the interior. It follows the same principles with this neutral tones on the ceiling and the walls, and then stained glass ceilings, stained glass windows really stick out from there. And again, this stained glass windows, which again are a very important part of this, creates these waves of, these rays of multicolored beams shooting through the space, kind of calls to the old Gothic churches. Here we have some QR codes. On the left is panoramas, both point clouds and our rendered ones. And on the right is an augmented reality model, which you could scan and place on your table if you wish.
All right, so for physical models, I wanted to start off with our 3D model, which is a similar scale to our site model over there if you want to take a look at it afterwards. About this process, I also want to hand this out for you guys to see it closer up. So you can pass it around when you're done with the renders and stuff. But that process, we took the model into Revit, a separate file, and deleted out any of the unimportant details, any furniture inside the building, and gave that file to a person who helped with the 3D print. So that's how we got the 3D print. And then I also wanted to point out our stained glass feature, since it was a very important feature of the building and it was very difficult to see on any other size model. So I modeled this stained glass with the laser cutter using basswood. And this is a scale of 1 inch equals 12 feet. Walk around. We were unable to provide any features of inside the walls because we are unaware of anything that is inside the walls, so we were not able to provide that information. I had to do a few different laser cuts, because while laser cutting this, the pieces would fall through and break. So we had to make sure that the mullions and the soldered were able to be laser cutted, which took a few tries, both in the software used Rhino to model the soldered pieces. And then we were able to get an outcome that shows the thickness of the wall, and then an outcome that shows the delicacy of the stained glass.
And then up here, really just to emphasize how important the point clouds were to our process. This was our starting point right here. I'm sure all of you guys have experience working with old, kind of not great drawings with questionable dimensions. So it was so helpful for us to begin seeing this complete space right here and be able to trace over the top of it.
And we got some photos of our other models here. We really spent a lot of time on our models, so we wanted to highlight them. This is just a plan view of our site model. And then we have a close-up shot. We used blocks of wood to model the buildings, just massing.
This is our building model. This one we hand cut all of these slats in the building. We try to do a laser cut. You can see on your right, It did not work out. The precision was unable to accompany what we wanted for precision, so we hand cut each slat that went on that building, and we got an outcome that looks like this.
The technology wasn't working. We had to do it the old-fashioned way, and it turned out looking a lot nicer. So now it's just a little more of the stained glass window. You can just see how small that is and how precise that is. And like Alex said, it took a few tries to get this right, but we really wanted to highlight these because they're really beautiful.
And you scanned them as well?
Yeah, so we used both the point cloud and the photos were really helpful to get, the point cloud just gets a little spotty. The thin lines become thick lines and it just gets, so the photos were really helpful to get the super precise, the line work in there and make sure all the colors are accurate. So we used the mixture of both for those. And then just a few more details here. We have it all lit up, and then we made a little building tag for for all three models, out of wood as well.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Just thinking of the Notre Dame in Paris. Now was that scanned before it was burned?
There's a German architecture firm that had one scan of it. The French didn't have any scans of it, so luckily there was one person in Germany that had it, and they're using that very extensively to renovate that.
Is it going to be fireproof?
I sure hope so.
I mean, I don't know what they're doing with it. Steel, trusses or what?
No, it's all timber trusses. They're just duplicating what was there and doing it by hand with hand tools also. So they're putting it back exactly the way it was. But it'll be sprinkled up there, so that'll help.
How did it start? Someone had
I can't remember.
The museum had contractors soldering some gutter system in the roof that caused the building on fire. Almost lost the whole building.
Yeah.
Because of stuff like that, it's really important that we are capturing the little details of all these beautiful buildings, and especially the details of the stained glass, which is why we focused on the stained glass of this building.
Yeah, if they had a full scan and Revit model and HABS drawings of it, then it'd be really easy to put it back together. They'd have it very well documented, and they wouldn't have to find some guy that happens to have a scan of it. So that's the importance of this.
What year they scanned it? Must have been when they had scanned. I don't know when the scans started being made.
I don't remember. I knew it was a pretty early scan though, so it's not quite as detailed as it would be if they did it today.
And as before, you're all welcome to come up and see their work and look at the virtual technology. And in a little bit, we'll reconjoin for our last presentation of the day. But thank you guys, you did a great job. Thanks for everyone for being patient. This is our last presentation of the evening. So please give these guys your attention. They did an amazing job.
All right, well, to start off, my name is Kyle Apps.
I'm Tyler Trebeaton.
I'm Madeline Check. And I'm Katie Tharman.
And this is the Calvary Gatehouse in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So the Calvary Gatehouse was constructed in 1897 by famous Milwaukee architect Erhard Brielmeier, and it marks the entrance to the Calvary Cemetery, the oldest existing Catholic cemetery in Milwaukee. It's located on Blue Mountain Road, just on the other side of I-94, so opposite side of I-94 from Miller Park. It's a significant burial site for Milwaukee's Catholic community, and this gatehouse originally included the living quarters for the cemetery caretaker and the cemetery office. So a little bit about the architect Erhard Brielmeier. He was born in Germany in 1841, but emigrated to the United States in 1862, where he founded his own architectural firm, E. Brielmeier and Sons. And his firm grew into one of the largest architectural firms in the United States, which specialized in ecclesiastical architecture. His firm designed over 600 churches, mainly throughout the Midwest, but his most famous work, which I hope all of you know, is the Basilica of St. Josephat in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which used parts from the old Chicago U.S. courthouse, custom house, and post office, and they made that beautiful piece of architecture. If you haven't been there, I'd highly recommend it. But the Calvary Gatehouse is one of his other projects in Milwaukee, and it's built in a Gothic revival, but to be more specific, Carpenter Gothic, because it's all made out of wood. And the Calvary Gatehouse remains as an iconic structure in Milwaukee that contributes to Brielmeier's architectural legacy in the area. The only thing is, it is currently under threat of demolition. It's owned by the Archdiocese of Milwaukee, which doesn't have the funds anymore to maintain it. So there's a high chance of it getting torn down, which is why it's important to document this and rebuild it in Revit so we have this work for future generations to know that this thing existed. But hopefully we can save it.
So one of the first steps that we took for redocumenting this building was going on an on-site visit. So early in the semester, our group traveled to where this is located, just outside of Miller Park, and we took pictures. This was important for us to get a good idea of the scale of the building, the type of materials that were used. Throughout this building, there's a lot of intricate details, so it was good for us to get an understanding of what it all looks like and see the current state of the stability of this building. As you can see, a lot of it is boarded up and a little bit weathered down.
So in the beginning of September, the building was scanned so we could get a point cloud from it. And we inserted that point cloud into Revit to fully 3D model the building. And we also, because the point cloud is the exact representation of what it is now, the windows are boarded up and everything. So we had to use like Google Street View to really understand what the windows looked like a while ago, and what the framing looked like, what the mullions looked like, so we could fully document that well. This is our point cloud walkthrough. As you can see, these are what the windows look like now. They're all boarded up, and you can see kind of the exact point cloud that we worked with to fully model the building. And if you would take out your phones and scan the QR codes, you can see a little bit closer up panos of the point cloud itself.
All right, so after going on site, reviewing the point cloud, we were able to start our HABS drawings for documenting this building. So starting out, HABS drawings in general, there's a lot of key standards that set aside from a normal plan set. That includes things like specific line weights, elements of style, but in general, just the amount of accurate representation of what's already there. So as you can see through our plan set, we have a lot of individual call-outs for specific features that we felt were important on this building. So right here, we have the detailing above the archway of the main entrance. We thought it was very important for us to focus on. And then going into our floor plan and our roof plan, something that Katie mentioned is all of our angles on the building, they're not 90 degrees. They're off by a couple degrees, so it made it a little bit difficult to model in Revit. And another thing to note is we weren't able to access the inside of this building, so that's why it is blank. But overall, this is our floor plan and roof plan for that. So a lot of our modeling went into the exterior detail. So all of this was individually modeled in Revit. Revit is something that for a lot of us, it was our first time using, so it was a little bit of a learning curve, especially with the amount of details on this building. But another thing about the Calvary Gatehouse is all of the windows, doorways, the trim is all very custom, so they were all individually made.
Yeah, and as you look at our sets of drawings here, you can really see the amount of detail that was put on this building, and something that we really wanted to focus on as a group was really documenting all of those little details and really giving this building its due diligence, because it is a really fantastic building. It's a beautiful work of art by Mr. Brielmeyer, and I think it's really sad, the state that this building has fallen into. So we really wanted to take the time to document all of these details and preserve his legacy.
Yeah, so here in the west elevation, we wanted to focus on the tower, which is also just a really beautiful piece of the building. And you can see to the left we have the full tower detail, and then in the middle we have the finial, which is obviously the very top. And then in the east elevation we chose to highlight the porch, which is right here. And we also chose to highlight from the porch the corbel detail, which is in the corner up top.
So these are our HABS drawings with our point cloud underlaid behind them. So it kind of shows off what we used to find, the point cloud was used to find dimensions, and we used it to basically model our entire building along with our other resources. So you can see how it perfectly aligns with the point cloud in the background. So I'll just go through a few of them here. So we have the original north elevation. Here's our east and west elevation. And then I really like these axons because they just show how the entire building is lined up with the point cloud and how much we try to make this as accurate to what is actually there as possible.
Yeah, so here you can see the axons with just the line work, and you can really see all of the geometry that goes into it, all the details, all the ornamentation that's on there. So like I said earlier, we really wanted to get all those details on there, which being that we are all kind of new to Revit was a bit of a challenge at first, but I'd say we did a pretty good job at documenting all of that. You can see the other side, you can see more of that.
Yeah, and then lastly, just our site plan, just showcasing where it's located. It's really important for this building to understand the context and the importance of that. There's a lot of intricate landscaping, and then the cemetery itself with the gravestones.
All right, if you would please take out your phones, you will see our rendered panoramas. All right, moving on. Uh-oh, what is that? Oh, well, here you can see our renders. We made these in Enscape, and then we put them into Photoshop later, added some entourage and a bit of effect to make the building sort of pop a bit more. So in Revit, we applied the textures to the building. You can see it's very blue. That is true to the original building. It was painted mostly in blue with some white accent. And yeah.
And then lastly, on the tables here, we have our site model that we made, and then in addition, a quarter scale model of the Calvary Gatehouse that you can check out. We 3D printed this straight from our BIM model. It took about 4 days to print. So yeah.
And we had to print it in multiple sections as well. That was not just in one print. As you can see, our model is very large.
So yeah, thank you all for your time, for listening about the Calvary Gatehouse. We're open to any questions if you have any.
Yes.
Is that a bell tower that's up in the air there?
I didn't see any bells in there, but I'm not sure. Maybe that was its original purpose. I'm not too sure.
The original building was all wood.
Yes.
Yeah, we believe so, yeah.
Your scanning device was running.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You were not able to get inside at all?
No, not for this project, no.
The trim work was just based on pictures. The who, all that trim is not on there right now?
No, it is on there right now. So some of it's a little just damaged and weathered. So we had to kind of use our context clues to put that together. But for the most part, yeah, it's all still there. Yeah, well, thank you. Well, we have our VR up here if you want to check it out, or else if you have any other questions, feel free to come up and ask.